I need to stop rambling. I'm so out of practice for this. Oh, passion for fashion. Ooh. It's not you, it's me. Hello, I'm Charlotte and this is Books and Bargains. Now, I am filming my January wrap up on the 16th of February, I think it is today. But I read some brilliant books in January and I just couldn't let the month go by without talking about them. So, what I've decided to do from now on in these wrap ups is go from bottom to top, which I've been doing for a while. However, I'm not going to be including my DNFs, and I think it's just because I almost don't want to give them airspace if they just weren't for me. Like, if I find a book really problematic, I will keep reading it until the end to get a full kind of wrap up of it for you. But if it's just not my thing, I just tend to put it down, and it's kind of like no hard feelings, but what's the famous saying? It's not you, it's me. And I just don't feel like the need to put them here as a DNF, because there will be people out there that like those books, whereas problematic books, I feel the need to be like, just don't read this, don't support this book. So that said, if you are interested in seeing my DNFs, let me know, and I might every few months do a kind of DNF wrap up, but I'm rambling now and I don't want this video to go on forever. So the only stat that I'm going to give you this month is going to be what I rated the books. And also in my wrap ups, I'm going to include at the beginning my NetGalley percentage, because this year I am determined to get my NetGalley percentage up to that magical 80%. So at the end of January, my NetGalley percentage was 44%, and I hope to improve that. I'd like to get to 50% by the end of February, but who knows. Right, so into the books that I read in January, and we'll start at the bottom with a 2-star read, and that was The Girl Who by Andrina Cordani. I was kindly sent this as part of a blog tour, but I just didn't like it. I'm a real fan of kind of YA thrillers, and I've been trying to get more into them, but this one just didn't make sense, and the pacing was off. I feel like it relied too heavily on having 2 female characters, and one was pretty and had a YouTube channel and, you know, was your typical blonde pretty girl, and then the other girl was not like other girls, and it just didn't work for me. The story itself could have been really amazing. There were some bits that really held the tension, and it's set in a bookshop, and the atmosphere and the kind of mystery itself was quite eerie at points, but then other points I was just like, what am I reading? So yeah, I gave that a 2-star, and that will be leaving the Books and Bargains library. Next up, we move on to our 3 stars, and the first of this was The Christmas Promise by Sue Moorcroft. Now, I originally really enjoyed this, and I've said before in this channel that a 3-star isn't a bad rating for me at all. 3-star does mean that I enjoyed it. 2-star means that I didn't enjoy it. 1-star means it was really problematic. But this, I feel like this story had all the ingredients of something that I would give a 5-star to, but in the end just didn't quite do it for me. So, I mean, it's been ages since I read this one now. It was one that I mostly read in December and just finished at the beginning of January. I don't think this needed to be a Christmas story for a star. I think if this had just been set at any other time of the year, I would have probably given it a 4-star. But I felt that when I read a Christmas story, I want it to be fully in your face, Hallmark movie Christmas, and this wasn't. I did really enjoy the fake dating trope. I love a fake dating trope, and I don't know why. And I really enjoyed the relationships in this between Ava and Sam. I enjoyed the relationship between Sam and his mother and his auntie. This book also goes pretty deep into, I want to say, the Me Too movement, but this book was released in 2016, I think, and it has a really strong conversation going through it about consent and sending naked pictures, and it's a kind of non-judgmental look at that, which I thought was really excellent. So like I say, it had some 5-star moments, but I just wish it hadn't been a Christmas book because it didn't give me all the Christmassy vibes that I love. The next 3-star is a book that I read on NetGalley, and this is Her Last Holiday by C.L. Taylor. I have been meaning to get onto the C.L. Taylor hype for so long. I own about 5 or 6 C.L. Taylor books that I've bought from charity shops, and I've never read one. And I don't know whether it's just because I had C.L. Taylor hyped up in my head, but this one just didn't live up to it for me. It started off really good and I really enjoyed bits of it, but it seemed to drag and a lot of the stuff just didn't make sense to me. It was a bit like Leanne Moriarty's 9 Perfect Strangers, in that both settings are, you know, health retreat gone wrong and people end up dying and somebody wants to figure out what happened, but they've both just missed the mark for me. So if you can recommend a really good story like that, let me know, because I'd like to read it. So anyway, I gave it a 3-star. It wasn't bad, but it just isn't one of the thrillers that I would put on my recommended lists. Let me know which C.L. Taylor books are worth the hype. I think I have Sleep, The Fear, The Missing, I can't remember. I have some like that. So just let me know which are your favourite C.L. Taylor books. The next book I really want to caveat with, I really loved a lot of this book. Again, this could have been a 5-star for me, and the reasons that it's a 3-star are probably really pedantic and really me specific, but that's Emily Houghton's Before I Saw You. Now, on the surface, this was a heartbreaking story, and for someone that lives with chronic illness and has had a lot of surgery, I could relate to both characters so much. And there were bits of this book that I had to put it down because I was crying. But this is where you're going to think that you're all going to unsubscribe and be like, oh my gosh, you are so pedantic. Alfie is male and is in hospital with a orthopedic problem. Alice is female and in with a burns problem. Now, I know that writers can use creative license, but as someone that has worked in healthcare for so long, I just couldn't get it out of my head that there is no way on earth that these 2 characters would be in the bed next to each other. They would either A, both be on completely different wards because of their injuries, and B, mixed sex wards are not a thing. I mean, it might be at other hospitals, but from as far as I'm concerned, privacy and dignity would not allow that. So I just think Emily Houghton is an author that I will definitely read again. I think that the way she writes was brilliant. The ending of this really let me down. And I can't get out of my head that this would have been an amazing same-sex romance. If this had been, I wouldn't even care if it was gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever. But if both characters had have been same-sex, it would have made so much more sense in my head. And then I describe this to someone as a bit like when you're wearing some fabulous shoes, but you've got a stone in them. And it's such a little thing, but it just rubbed at me all the way through. So yeah, that's what I think of that. Like I say, 3-star. If you're not going to get bugged by those things, I would definitely say read this, and it would probably definitely be a 5-star because I partly loved it. But yeah, I feel like I've really run that down, but I did really love this book. It just irritated me a bit. Does that make sense? Okay, so on to the 4-star books. The first one is an audiobook that I listened to with my Audible subscription, which I have now cancelled as I am using BorrowBox from my library instead. However, this was Clothes and Other Things by Alexandra Shulman. Now, I listened to this on my bus journeys to work, and it really just reignited that passion that I've got for fashion. Alexandra Shulman was the editor of Vogue, and I've previously listened to her Inside Vogue, Diary of the 100th Issue, and she's a very upper class, posh woman, but there's just something about listening to her that I like some of her dilemmas and things that she talks about are so kind of first world problems. When I purely listened to her talking about the clothes, I got all the feels, from that. So that's why that one is a 4-star. Maybe that should be a 3-star. I think maybe that should be a 3-star. I'm kind of trying to, like, at the end of the month go back and think about books and rate them rather than like finishing them and going like bang, because I do that a lot with 5-stars. I'm like, oh yeah, 5-star, and then I get to the end of the month and I'm like, probably more a 4-star. The next book that I read was Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given, and I know there has been a lot of controversy around this on the internet about whether Florence stole ideas from, oh, what's her name? She's called the Slumflower. This, to me, I gave it a 4-star based on the fact that I think if you are a younger woman who is new to feminism, and especially modern feminism, this would be a really great guide. I love the illustrations in it. I love that she acknowledged her privilege throughout this, and there were a lot of things that made me really think. However, there was a lot of this book that was just not really for me. Actually, I think I'm going to downgrade this to a 3-star as well. I don't know if I'm just in a 3-star mood today. There was a lot about dating, a lot about consent and things that I think were brilliant, but I just don't think I'm the right audience for this book. Right, so now on to the actual 4-stars. These 5 I am keeping as 4-stars. So the first of those is The Babysitters Club by Anne M. Martin, and this is Raina Telgemeier's graphic novel of it. I am collecting the series and it just gives me all the feels from reading the Babysitters Club books when I was a teen. Nothing more to say about that really, other than it's 4-star, great escapist read, loved it. The next one was again kindly sent to me, and this was Sarah Manning's Rescue Me, and this is a proof, and this is one of these massive floppy paperbacks that I love. And if you just read the back of it, surely that should sell it to you. 2 lonely people, 1 good dog. And this book, this melted my heart. Basically, our 2 main characters meet at the beginning of the story and meet through a dog, which they become co-parents of, or co-parents as they call it. The descriptions of this dog and just the way that Sarah Manning managed to get you to fall in love with this dog, who was, you know, naughty at times, proper little doggy, and just how the dog comes out of her shell and changes their lives, was fantastic. This could have been a 5-star for me, but I don't know what to say without giving it away. At the very beginning, there's a lot of, oh, I'm getting on old and babies and my eggs are running out and all that kind of stuff that I just don't like in a story. Again, that's personal preference, but I don't think any book like that could ever be a 5-star for me, because I'm just like, and I know there are some women out there that feel like that. I know that I'm in the minority not wanting children and not being able to have children, but I don't know, the characters for me, I like women, they don't even need to not have children. I do love some books where they have children. It's just the over the hill trope is just lost on me. However, like I said with Before I Saw You, it was just like a little stone in my shoe, but the rest of the book was fantastic, apart from the ending. The ending was all too neat, but I should expect that, shouldn't I? I do love a romance, so that was brilliant. Now the next book was kindly sent to me from Book Break, and I really don't know what to tell you about this one, and that's Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Power. I've read this, I still don't understand what went on in it, but I really enjoyed it and couldn't put it down. So quickest little wrap up ever. I can't explain it, I enjoyed it. It kept me going, didn't want to put it down, and I'm now really excited to get to Wilder Girls, which is on my TBR. Now these last 2 4-stars were so close to being a 5-star. Like if I gave half stars, these would be 4.5. And the first of this is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. Again, I had a copy of this on NetGalley, but I was kindly sent this by a friend from my Amazon wishlist, and I'm so glad to have my own copy of it. This Okay, so on BookTube, this book has been like Marmite, and I loved the plus size representation in this. Right at the beginning of her story, our main character B, who is a plus size fashion blogger, talks about being in Paris and wandering around the markets and not being able to fit into any of the clothes. And I can so relate to that as a teenager. And I mean, I look back now and I wasn't even plus size. I was like a size 12 to 14. But I remember going to Camden on a, no, it wouldn't have been Camden, would it, on a school trip? I think it was Covent Garden. And we went round the market and they'd got all these slogan t-shirts and everything. And I only had to look at a large and I was like, well, that's not going to fit me. And I remember being so despondent by it. And B finds a seller who sells her a cape. And that is really like the start of her, like, oh my God, I love vintage journey, which I think I've been on the last few years, like finding my style and just being like, yes, that is me. This is who I am. Deal with it. Going off on a tangent here. But then B writes to the makers of a kind of bachelorette type show and says that she doesn't think it's very diverse, and they ask her to be on the show. Now, what ensues? It's that not trusting whether the show actually wants to represent a plus size woman or is using it as like performative allyship for plus size girls. The reason that I didn't give this a 5-star, there are quite diverse characters in this, but I like the plus size rep, and there is also non-binary rep in this that I thought was really good. But apart from that, I thought a lot of the like ethnic representation and the black characters were just there for diversity's sake. Some of them didn't feel like a 3-dimensional character, and so yeah, that's why that wasn't a 5-star, but I bloody love this book. And then the last one that I almost rated 5-star, and at first did rate 5-star but have knocked down to 4, is A Vow So Bold and Deadly. This is the last book in the Curse Breaker series, and I don't think it was wrapped up well enough. I don't know if that means that we'll get another book. If we are going to get another book and it's not a trilogy, that would change my view. But if that was the last book, I don't think everything was wrapped up enough. There were a few scenes that really dragged and other scenes that happened too quickly, I think. I can't really tell you much more about this one because if I do, I'll be spoiling it. Like I say, it is the last in a trilogy. But yeah, I'm giving that 4-star. So, on to the 5-star books. There are only 3 of these, but I couldn't not give them a 5-star. Now, I'm going to do these in order, so the last one you see will be my top book of January. But the first one is Vita Martin's Here the Whole Time. Now, I will say about this is the UK cover, which I really don't like. Our main character is queer and fat, and it says on the back, fall for this body positive queer love story for anyone who's ever gotten into a pool with their shirt on. And I fell in love with our main character. However, I don't like this cover because I don't think it shows him as plus size. However, the original cover, this one, I love. So I want to get a finished copy of this one, but I'm hoping to get this cover. And I really don't know what to tell you about this one. Our main character, Felipe, is ready to finish school. He is sick of the bullies and he can't wait for his, I think it's like, I don't know if it's a summer break or a spring break or whatever. And he's so happy to be finishing. And then his mum forgets to tell him that his neighbour will be staying with them for the break. Now, Felipe is in love with this neighbour, but thinks that his hot neighbour could never love him back. And yeah, it just does everything so well. Relationships and diversity, and I love this book. So if you're looking for a queer, body positive, YA read, I would pick this one up. Then another book sent to me by Book Break is Dear Reader by Kathy Rensenbrink, and this has been all over BookTube and Bookstagram, and if you haven't read it yet and you're a book lover, why on earth not? This book, it says a love letter to stories and reading from one of our best memorists. Now, this book came as the perfect antidote when I was in a reading slump, and it made me fall in love with books all over again. Our author talks through her life and the books that kind of shaped her and the books that she read at specific times that helped her get through things. And I don't know about you, but without books this last month, I don't know how I would have coped. Books have really, really helped me through. And yeah, I owe a lot to this book. I think without this book, I don't think I'd have come back to BookTube. It reignited my love for books so much that I kind of want to write my own letter all about books in my life. It really inspired me that much, so that had to be a 5-star. And then my favourite book of January, which is just pipping that to the post, and that is Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett. I buddy read this with Victoria. I've had this on my TBR for a while and not picked it up. And if you're the same, go and pick it up now. You will not regret it. This, when I was talking about in One to Watch, there being diversity for diversity's sake, this is the most diverse book I've ever read, with so much representation, but none of it feels forced. There is queer representation, there is black representation, there is just so much. It's so sex positive, and our main character Simone is HIV positive, and when she starts dating, that is obviously a big concern of hers. And without giving too much away, I was kind of worried going in that would be used as a kind of massive plot point, and although it was, and it was part of the plot, just not in any way I could have imagined it was going to be. And yeah, bloody loved it. I am exhausted now from this video, but I just want you to know how much I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I already think this could be a contender for my top book of the year, because I don't see how anything is going to come close to it, but we will see. So that is all the books that I read in January. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave me a comment down below, as well as a like, a subscribe. Everything is great. You can join me over on Bookstagram. I am aiming to upload a video every Sunday and Wednesday. Sundays at 12 o'clock and Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. I know that things are tough at the moment, but as I keep saying, storms don't last forever, although this has been a particularly long storm. And so, until next time, look after yourselves. Bye.